Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. At UFC 264, Sean O'Malley defeated last-minute replacement Kris Moutinho. He was originally supposed to fight Luis Smolka, but he pulled out of the fight. And after that win, I wanted to make a video of who I would match Sean O'Malley up with next. And when you look at the UFC's bantamweight division, which I think is honestly the deepest division in all of the UFC, I think there's so many options you could match Sean O'Malley up with next. There's so many even great fighters outside the top 15. But if you've been following my channel, you know I've been dying to see Sean O'Malley test it. You know, there's a lot of hype behind him, there's a lot of talk behind him, and I just finally want to see him test it against a known guy at bantamweight. So I came up with three of the best options. I'll give you my personal favorite at the end of the video, and make sure you comment down below, who do you want to see Sean O'Malley matched up with next? So the first matchup I came up with was number 9, Dominick Cruz. I would love, to see Sean O'Malley versus Dominic Cruz. I think Dominic Cruz is probably the UFC bantamweight GOAT right now. You know, he has some quality wins at bantamweight. He's been around forever. He's came back from long layoffs, terrible injuries to win a championship against TJ Dillashaw. And I think that fight would be a lot of fun. I mean, you look at Dominic Cruz's footwork, you look at Dominic Cruz striking and his wrestling ability. I think it would be a great test to see if Sean O'Malley's the real deal or not. I know Dominic Cruz has shown a little bit of a decline the last year or two, and people have been wondering, especially after that win over Casey Kenny, that wasn't all that great. How can Dominic Cruz continue on in the bantamweight division? How is he going to do? Is he ever going to be able to find his way back to a title shot? I don't know, but I think there's something to be gained for a top ranked, a top 10 ranked fighter fighting a guy who's not necessarily ranked or barely ranked, because Sean O'Malley may find himself in the rankings this week, maybe like 15 or 14. I think there's something to be gained from beating a guy who has a lot of hype behind him. And I know Dominic Cruz says he wants to fight up in the rankings. He doesn't want that fight. But that doesn't change the fact that I would love to see that fight. I think that'd be a phenomenal fight. The next option I came up with is an option that's been talked about a lot already, and that is Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar currently sits at number 7. He's a proven veteran. He's overall, a well-rounded fighter. He has great wrestling, great boxing. I think he would have a significant reach disadvantage. I'm not 100% sure on that. He definitely would have a height disadvantage. I think it would be a good test for Sean O'Malley, and it's a winnable fight for Sean O'Malley, in my opinion. As much as I've crapped on Sean O'Malley for the level of competition that he's fought, his skills look good. His striking looks good. But I'm not ready to say, he's an elite fighter without testing him against some of the top 10 in the UFC. And I think Frankie Edgar would be a great test. I know a lot of people, they look at Sean O'Malley striking and they say, well, if he gets matched up against a wrestler, and that's a theme that always happens. I mean, that was said about Conor McGregor as well. If he gets matched up with a wrestler, he's screwed. Frankie Edgar has a very high fight IQ, and if he needs to, which he probably will in that fight, he will attempt to take Sean O'Malley down. And Frankie Edgar was fighting at 155 for years and able to take guys down. So I would love to see that. Can Sean O'Malley keep Frankie Edgar off of him? So the final option, and my favorite option, is number 3, Rob Font. Rob Font's coming off that spectacular win over Cody Garbrandt where he jabbed his face off. And Sean O'Malley called out Rob Font in his post-fight interview. And I know people are going to criticize me because I've said in the past, I don't even think Sean O'Malley deserves a ranked opponent. So that's way different. I'm saying what I think he deserves or doesn't deserve, but that doesn't change the fact of what I would like to see. And whether it's Khamzat Chimaev, whether it's Islam Makhachev, whether it's Sean O'Malley, when you have a fighter that has so much hype behind him and people are already anointing them the champion, I just want to see him thrown in the deep end, and I want to see if it's real or not. I just love having questions answered. And if you throw Sean O'Malley in there with Rob Font, and I respect Sean O'Malley for calling out Rob Font. Rob Font is a tough test for anybody. I mean, Cody Garbrandt found out the hard way, and that was one of my wrong picks for this year. I picked Cody Garbrandt to beat Rob Font. If Sean O'Malley can go in there and beat Rob Font, he's getting close to a title shot. And with his name and his popularity, a spectacular win over Rob Font could get Sean O'Malley a title shot. And that would shut me up immediately. If he can prove himself that he's able to beat a guy like Rob Font, then there's no doubt in my mind he obviously deserves to be in that top 5. But that's going to be a tough fight. And I don't know if the UFC is going to want to book that. I've said before, I think the UFC is kind of protecting him a little bit as much as they can. They're giving him fights to try to grow him and let him grow his skill set before throwing him to the Sharks. And I think this Rob Font fight would be a very difficult fight for him, and I would not favor him at all in this Rob Font fight. But let's see what the UFC does. I'm very curious to see what happens next with Sean O'Malley. He's not fought anyone yet. The best fighter he's fought so far is Marlon Vera. And of course, they could do that rematch too. I'll throw that bonus matchup in there. You know, everyone thinks that first fight was a fluke. Marlon Vera kicked that nerve and then flash KO'd Sean O'Malley. Then he was stretchered out of the cage. So everyone thought that was a fluke. Maybe they can run that back. I think that fight will eventually happen just because it has that great storyline behind it. But for right now, the guy who wants to see Sean O'Malley test it, I want to see Rob Font. Now, if I had to guess what the UFC probably does, I would probably say they're going to give him Frankie Edgar. And I don't know. I don't know anything that you guys don't know. I haven't seen anything about that. But I just think Frankie Edgar is the best opponent in that top 10 that is a good stylistic matchup for Sean O'Malley. And I feel like Sean O'Malley has the best chance to beat Frankie Edgar rather than Rob Font or Dominic Cruz, even though Frankie Edgar is rated or ranked above Dominic Cruz. So we'll see. Comment down below and let me know who you want to see Sean O'Malley fight next. Please make sure to like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.